It's time for the Love and Relationships Hour at 10, brought to you by from S&M Airlines. No tachygraphs. If you're in a bind, it could be any time of the year. It doesn't have to be Halloween or Valentine's Day, but yes, tachygraphs.click4.net and use the weekly zoo at the Etsy checkout. Now, welcome to my lovely dungeon of all vintage technology where I collect Halloween and holiday telephones. Yes, I got a new collection, kids. I don't even know how much I have on the Enterprise telephony, but I got one too many. I'll admit to it. But I inherited other people's problems. And I don't have to pay much for anything. I do pay for shipping on some of the stuff. But a lot of this was yeah, a lot of this I got for virtually little to nothing. So and I have plenty of spares in case something was to go here. But most of this up right above my shoulder here is all the Enterprise telephony, like proprietary stuff, and then where the pumpkins are is all the analog right now. And you see my pumpkin, my color classic. For whatever reason, some creeps have got into that thing. I just opened it just 2 months ago. Something happened in the last week. Alright, so this is the infamous Love and Relationships Hour. And again, like I said, you have I'll be generous and give you an hour from the air because I had to prep for phoners tonight. Yes, I'm distracting and posting stuff on Instagram. So yes, I'm very shallow. So anyone who's on social media, if you're using Zoom or if you're using any applications, if you know how to communicate, just hit me up. Um, So if you have anything to say, any questions, any confusing stuff, you're welcome to call me on the LNR Hour. I love to talk about a lack of friendship advice. I've had more broken friendships, a lot of abusive professional relationships. I have the least experience when it comes to love and sex, but I know it in a theoretical way, so I can send you something. But you can ask me anything. I can't be liable for any of your bad relationships. I just can't do it. So I can't be liable. I don't put a disclaimer like I do on my Tech Beat show, but hey, what the hell? All right, we got a few callers queued up on the Weekly Zoo, and we'll be taking calls till 11:15 Eastern time because I was a little late to producing because this takes me about a couple hours to produce. And again, it's careless advice. You're not going to get the most high quality advice. Not like some of the other whores on YouTube. Oh, did I just say that on my air? Oops, my bad. Charlie in Chicago, you're on the Weekly Zoo. What say you, Charlie?
Hi, what's up? This is Charlie in Chicago, driving a BST.
Oh, I gotta get the honker on.
Actually, it's not a question. Did you hear about, do you really think that Courtney Ryan's really just an extremist online propagating misinformation on relationships? Because she sure as hell seems to be a white nationalist from the content that she posts.
Oh, that's a given.
She uses a lot of weird slurs to discuss guys.
Oh, yes, simp is a slur, actually. Twitch will ban you for using the word simp.
So, what's your take on other YouTubers? You say you like to talk about the competition, but you said something about the 8-bit guy last week. But you said nothing about what it came to. What was it? Yep, the computer clan.
Right, yes, I didn't say...
Macintosh librarian.
I didn't say anything.
Alfred Blasi, too.
I didn't say anything.
So, why did you give no comment on them three, but you had a very quick opinion on the 8-bit guy?
Because he's overrated. I should say that LGR is overrated too.
And you think you're the smartest YouTuber around. You think you're all that. 'Cause I think you're a little bit cocky. I hate to burst your bubble, June. But as you used to say, keep your feet on the ground while you reach for the stars. I gotta go. I gotta get back into my BST and make sure I don't murder anything with my 18-wheeler.
Burp burp. Yes, he drives a big scary truck in Charlie in Chicago. He's onto something. Some of this is bitch line material. People giving me cheap shots. He's right. I mean, I've been really slow to this YouTube thing. It takes an investment in time. And LGR and the 8-bit, they've been around probably when I lived on the other side of the pond. No, the river, excuse me, in L-Town. Helltown, as I like to say. But, yeah, it's, with regards to, Computer Clan, I never heard of him until probably 2 years ago. And he's been on there for much longer. And Alfred de Blasi, I've seen his stuff when I was on my original MacBook, actually. I remember that because he's been online for God knows how long. And I've seen his stuff as far back as when I was living in Oldtown. So, yeah, it's, in fact, like I've said before, I just haven't had the chance to do this, but I own a open VMS server in the other room. And, I wanted to do a similar style that he did, where he took a vintage computer, did it on a holiday. I might do it on or close to Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever. I wanted to do that, but yeah. Thank you, Charlie, for the call. Let's go to. Josh had something on the previous. This is. I think he's got a pun on here. Josh, you're a sick dude now. I thought you were a cooling guy, but now he's a sick dude. What are you saying about Sinclair's network? It's so obvious. It's Halloween.
Alright, what's up?
This guy.
Yeah, I wonder, with that Sinclair group, I think they got into a really kinky bind with not, with their DNS in their systems, because I read a report, it was on the Active Directory, so
Yes.
I guess they got into a real bind, and they got confused, and the hackers owned them.
Yep, they were the dummies. They were the dummies. But we'll see if Sinclair is the real dummy, if they can come out of that. Thanks for the call, Josh. This guy's kind of a weirdo. Christy has a question on cosplay girls. Christy, let's see.
Hi, what's up?
The sky.
I was wondering what your favorite cosplay, a character that you would like to spend a night with.
I'm not sure. I go by Harley Quinn, but there's really nothing else that I would be attracted to.
Harley is a safe bet.
Yeah, Harley seems to be safe. Yeah, I just really. I mean, I'm not a gamer, but the only way to get a girl that, that's into this stuff is the only way you get to them is I guess gamer girls, but the gamer girls are quick to be taken. Because here I am kind of on the market vis-a-vis girl that selfishly ended her life. And that was one thing that I was going to talk about, the Zimmerberg State Court Unified Urinated Court System Exposes It. That's actually my next podcast project. And that was why I did LNR in the first place. Because I wanted to show you how effed up the corruption in the magnific court system is. They are totally corrupt. Michael has a question on my mama bear. Actually, wait a minute. He does not. No, he's not. He's on hold. Okay. We had a couple new sounder cuts on the show here, and Yes. So while we have Michael back on, he's on hold. Okay, Michael's on hold. Okay. So I want to tell you that this camera shot is gonna be the studio shot for the stuff that I do in front of a camera. Right now I'm talking to the camera, but that's not the purpose here. It's for your imagination here. So, there is a test video that I did. I said I was gonna upload it tomorrow. I am actually gonna wait about a week to see if it's what has been characterized by a witness as a first draft. Particularly, it's the same crap that I've talked about in labs about the system, the Medicaid waiver system, and how people like me are getting the shortest end of the stick. I get that. In fact, one of our cuts that is the I actually want to kind of segue for this temporarily, just for a few seconds, kind of go back to the zoo and LNR. Um, it's that um, I tend to like to do high quality video productions. So one of the things that drives me nuts is how people edit videos. They put their clips in the timeline and they cut things up. I assemble edit to this day. I think it's still the best editing practice. Where you literally mark your in and out so you build your timeline. And then you can drag and click stuff and move stuff in between. I tend to do that. But when I assemble edit on like an Apple, older Final Cut and all that, or Final Select Pro, some people say it, to the previous caller that talks to me about other YouTubers, is that I kind of like just assemble editing a timeline that fix up the in and outs that I miss a point, or sometimes I miss a few seconds of a trailing thought that I didn't mark in a few seconds before or after. So I tend to fix it up. But one of the things that I did in this pilot, I basically sat where the color classic, I was kind of right over here actually. Where if you're watching the live stream, that's where I was. I had my one of my laptop cards here, and I was manipulating a teleprompter, which is my secondary display that I do my editing on. I moved it below the monitor and tried to look between the camera and the computer monitor, and as you know, it's not always that easy when it's not on a reflective glass that you can look on. But technicalities aside, I did this test, and one of the things I did was learn how to, particularly when you're doing tape stuff, um, or film if you're a younger YouTuber, is to read off a copy if you can. And then pause like if you're reading a paragraph, stop for 5 seconds. If you got an ellipsis, pause, right? Because that's the signal. The it's pause. Whenever you see dot 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 or period period period, you're supposed to pause for like 3 or 4 seconds. So that's what I did. So then I went into Media Composer. You actually run out of it for a few more months, right? So I edited it. What I did was I took a pause and from one statement to the other. In fact, even though it was a quick transit, you had a little jerk because you're going to the next you're segueing, right? It was a little bit abrupt, but it was more subtle. It wasn't, like because if you're taking like 30, you're taking like an hour of a video of talking and you cut it down to 10 minutes and you're loud and you don't pause, you tend to, it tends to come off very hot. And that was the experience. So I did this experiment. See, I'm talking loud right now. I was very loud. I was very quiet. I was loud now, but I was quiet in the tape stuff. I did get animated because there were certain elements where I got animated, but I did it more calmly. And in fact, the segues, even though I didn't do a crosses of, was actually more subtle as opposed to if you're just talking and rambling. A lot of the YouTubers you see talk, even again, I mentioned the because, but when you cut indiscriminately every 5 seconds, it seems like you're talking for 4 hours, and that's really the bad way to edit. So I did it more calmly, and it actually, even though, like I said, the segues were not as harsh because you were more flat. I would still, I think part of it was I might do some dissolves and then do some cutaways, and like I said, it looked like the film or the tape got fucked up a little bit, but at least it's more, like I said, subtle. And that was a trick that I did in that experiment. So, like I said, that's something that I promised I would get it done by Wednesday, but I want the subject matter is needs to go through some editorial and clearances in house with the standards and practices because it involves specific groups, and I cannot. That could be a liability to my brand. So I have to be very careful how I say it. So I did tease people on Facebook and Instagram that I would have something up by tomorrow. But actually, that's when you watch the 9 o'clock block. I had that was on my background. If you saw my avid media composer in the background, it was that was the edit. But I don't want to share that until I get full clearance that it's clear and it goes through some checks and balances. So yes, but one of the so this test cut was built to experiment with B-roll. So what did it just mean looking at the camera that there'd be some elements, there'd be B-roll and some coverage or just shots and stuff like that. So that it was really when I had someone look at the raw video, it was kind of it was kind of it was a good thing. The individual was blown away, which was kind of the unintended consequence. In fact, one of the things that I could do with this 30-minute recording was do reenactments, do some dramatic cuts, and and when that individual said it was a good first draft, the individual wasn't kidding, because it really was a good way to just experiment the editorial part, not necessarily throwing it into a nonlinear editing system and play around with the cuts per se, but just to see what kind of content you can do. And I think by doing a more peaceful, if you're not reading off a script, but more orderly, um, it was clearly um, it was clearly an interesting uh, experiment to see what you could do with this content without it being completely a hot mess. And I thought it was a good experiment. So you might see clips, you may not see clips. But in one of the B-roll that we were going to use was the infamous Jim Cramer cut. Roll it.
They know nothing!
And
He's nuts! They're nuts! They know nothing!
yeah, it's Take Me Back Tuesday. Apparently, that was really a rant on Jim Cramer, and I don't remember. Apparently, it was dated August 3rd of 2007. I watched a lot of Street Signs and watched a lot of Aaron Burnett. I was home at that time from school, and or I would get home at like 2:30, so that's when I would tune in. Um, Kramer, I remember well, and he was pretty animated around that time in the mid to late '07. I remember there was one time there was a thunderstorm in Englewood Cliffs where he got all frazzled up. But I remember the rant, and that rant went on for years, but I don't remember that being a rant. Now, the Rick Santelli tax day of 2009, that was he was off the rails. Um, he had venom. I think Kramer was freaking the hell out because that was right before the financial crisis, about 13 months before. So, and I just talked about it last week. But if anyone remembered this onset of COVID-19, he was in the studio. He said they know nothing. He said it very calmly, and we all, and anyone who watches CNBC knew where he was going at, because we all remember his rant. I mean, and everyone read into that. Everyone knew what he said. I don't know if it was an act if CNBC knew ahead of time, but I, I don't know how to characterize it when he did it during COVID, but it was like the calm before the storm. And what can he do? You can't freak out because it was about to happen. So I thought it was kind of a nice. I mean, it wasn't like he did it both in '07 and last year recklessly. I think he freaked the hell out during, because it was before the financial crisis. You couldn't freak out during COVID because that was when everything was starting to get restrictive, and it was too late. And I have my own views on COVID. Still believe it was significant. We were due for some pandemic. I remember SARS. It was isolated in China. Unfortunate for the people in China. Thankfully for the rest of us. I'm not trying to diminish or minimize what happened, but the bird flu was kind of scary, but it didn't overrun the health system, and it did overwhelm the health system with COVID-19. And our health system is more vulnerable in selected areas than it was before the pandemic. Because nurses are not to, whether they're ICU nurses or not, are not supposed to be losing people by the scores on a daily basis. While it may not be like the Spanish flu, while it may not be like the other respiratory viruses that happened before, this one hit some cities worse than others, and it burnt out nurses to the point where we're still in some form of state of emergency, waiving laws where if you are a nurse in the last 3 years and you had retired, you could go out for retirement without, go back out of retirement without having to go through the certification because they're so desperate here in New Hampshire. Again, yes, medical professionals are supposed to go, they're supposed to agree with death, but you're not supposed to, with all this emotional connection. It's hard to. Doctors, I wish doctors were getting more involved. I understand their lives would be at risk, but the doctors need to have some empathy too. I mean, I understand you need to have some doctors, but they need to understand this too, because the nurses they're literally doing the dirty laundry. I didn't mean to divert myself into a COVID rant, but it was kind of going back to the Jim Cramer and the cuts that I'm going to be using for my edits. See, I know where I go. I've been up for like hours on end, and I could be a chatterbox. I know I'm a chatterbox. You have to tell me. Michael's now off on hold, so we could get him on. Michael, you're on the weekly, so you have a question about my relationships. You're asking me about my life. Let's see you, Michael.
Hey, dude, what's up?
The sky.
Yeah, I like your cut of Kramer. It reminds me of my younger days.
Same
I have
here.
a question with you with regards to your mother. I'll take your question off the air because I get some conflicting messages on your show. Take your call off the air.
Well, okay, he's off. All right, I don't know if it was with regards or was it. What did. I missed that. With regards or. Because he said something about, like, this to see my mother. Um. I know I've been critical of her. I just found out that she kind of guilt tripped in me. Somehow she got word that I was gonna report her, but I don't know. I thought I had that content cornered off for everybody. I I don't want to make my mother look bad. and she's not a bad person. Let me just be honest. There are other parents that are worse than her. There people that identify this as autism parents. So it's not a thing against her, but it's hard to live with somebody for so long and then live with somebody during a pandemic. Some of them have we've had different views and different approaches to things, but I'm it's um like I said, that we have our good days, we have our bad days. Sometimes it's more challenging than others. We're planning to go to Boston on Friday to the Museum of Science. Hopefully, we'll see that Alto computer not boxed up or something like that. Yeah, I saw a Xerox Alto at the Museum of Science unidentified, sitting in an area where it wasn't in a gallery. It was in a room where I could see through a door. And actually, I cannot get on my file server. This is BS with my Windows server. I am on my corporate network, so my firewall should allow me to get on here. Don't understand why I can't get on here. It should route properly. Yeah, so sorry about that. I'm just trying to move some files here because um, I got stuff here. I've been denying on my file server. So yes, in short, yes, it goes without children. And here's another thing: people have associated me and my mother as this dual couple. I don't want to say couple, but this duo. And I think part of it is that I can have my own identity if my mother's always involved. And it's not me or my mother, but it's how it's gotten misread. And I'm only gonna say the reason why our relationship got so close was because my mother was the only thing in my life because there wasn't anybody else to take it over. So that was why um, that happened. Um, and I finally got into my server here. I hope I can log in here. Oh, my domain controller is bounded properly. Yeah. So like I said, we've had our rough spots, but it's not a surprise just given how things were. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Um, and it just it's um it's the stuff that I've talked in previous episodes and my other experiences in creating content. It's um it's hot and cold. I guess it's the easiest way. You really threw me off on a whim here because it's I don't know how to describe it. It's just it's not been easy. It's and I'm hoping things can get better. I just feel like I feel as an individual I don't have anything to relate or understand. I can't not relate to people if I'm not allowed a chance in life. And then that goes back to that video. That's kind of the theme of my video. I cannot grasp what your life is if I'm not allowed the chance to share not be able to share the experiences if I'm not allowed a chance. All right, so this is interesting. I cannot get into any of my servers. I'm logging into. No, that's not it. I tell you, that Windows firewall is doing some really interesting ones. I'm literally like, I cannot get into this my file servers for whatever reason. And not that I'm distracted or anything like that, but it's like they cannot connect. The hell. Um. Anyways, I don't know. All right, so we're gonna take a break. We'll take some more callers. Again, my Zoom session here. If you're following me on social, you have my way of contact here. If you use Zoom, use it, please. We beg you. I don't mean to be desperate, but um, you can get in there. I don't think I put in the. Did I put in the? I don't know. I don't know if I gave you the right Zoom key if you're on Instagram, but I don't share it to everybody, but it's how I can get people on here. If you know how to get into the show, that's how we keep things secure here. All right, we'll take a few more calls. Again, I know this show is one of the most weirdest things you might see on YouTube. It's a quirky show, and I'm a quirky kind of guy. So, but I'm trying to get in my story out. I cannot figure out why the hell I can get in. It's just totally locking me out because I need to get me out of this machine because I'm gonna get to the point where I can't do anything here. It's like this is crazy. I sure hope I can get in there because it's like I said, it's only on my PC. I've been having a network connectivity on the LAN here, so uh, cannot get on my 2SI. I call my Mac Mini a Micro 2SI because I'm a little old school. So we'll take a break, take some more calls, and I come back on the other side of the break. So just goodbye. Thank you for watching. Stream like nobody's watching.